Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Henry, and I am one of the world history teachers. Um, I will be your educational Sherpa for this portion of our first week. Um, we'll be talking about the Renaissance and uh, how it differed a little bit from the Middle Ages, um, and some of the main ideas that were behind it, and also how it kind of grew and expanded. And you should have your Italian and Northern Renaissance handout, either a hard copy or a digital copy that you'll be typing into. Make sure if you're writing, your handwriting is legible. You will be submitting this either through image or through submission of the file itself on Canvas. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're kind of just start off with like what the objectives were in comparison. So the Middle Ages, the main objective was, of course, to kind of find God. Everything kind of went back to religion. If you remember the Middle Ages, this was when the church was at the height of its power. And this is when Christianity really took off and kind of became the forefront or the leading or most popular religion in the world at that time, or the most followed religion in the world at that time. Um, Another thing it was known for, another objective of the Middle Ages was just to prove those biased ideas at the time. So it was preconceived ideas, things like gender roles, how men and women should behave or act, racial and ethnic ideas, religious ideas. It was just to prove that they were right, not really to look for anything different. Now, the Renaissance, on the other hand, they're looking for more of a balance between reason and religion. Um, and they're also looking to promote the learning of the liberal arts at a higher level. One of the major themes of the Renaissance, if not the biggest theme, was this idea of humanism. And it has kind of three big things that kind of go along with it. One of them is that it's the study of Greek and Roman classics. And if you remember, when we entered into the Middle Ages, a lot of that knowledge that the Greeks and Romans had kind of compiled and created, a lot of it was lost and deemed unimportant in the grand scheme of things because survival was more important. However, it was preserved by those Islamic civilizations during their golden age. And when the Islamic civilizations in Europe came into contact during the Crusades, once those were over, that information flooded back into Europe through Italy and the Renaissance. Another big part of humanism is that it's celebrating all the talents that humans have, whatever that talent may be, whether it be um, if you're a skilled musician, a skilled swordsman, a skilled painter, sculptor, scientist. You take that talent and you perfect it. And then another part of humanism is how it's a focus on individual achievement and independence rather than blind devotion to things. And another major theme of the Renaissance was the idea of secular thought or secularism. And secular is in its simplest form just worldly or not relating to religion or non religious. And the reason why secularism kind of really takes hold during the Renaissance is because the church takes a serious downgrade in authority thanks to the Black Plague at the end of the Middle Ages. The Black Plague, if you remember, a lot of people thought it was caused by God. It was a way of God punishing people for misbehaving or for sinning or for just doing wrong. And the church was unable to fix the problem, which really weakened the church's position. Also, it didn't help the fact that a lot of the ones who ended up contracting the plague were priests because they go see those who are dying and they don't have the right protection on, and so they then contract the plague also. And so you have people thinking, well, this is God punishing us, and you're supposed to be the messengers of God, the ones closest to Him, the most knowledgeable about God, but you're catching it at a high rate. You guys must really be messing up. And so people begin to step back from the church and lose a lot of its authority. They're still Christian, but they're just not blindly devoted and following the church's teachings or church's path. Instead, these people want to focus on other things. They want to focus on things like philosophy, on government, certain extravagances, artwork, music, things like that. And so let us kind of look at examples of comparing secular and religious. Remember, secular is not worldly, so we have a Wolverine comic book and the Holy Bible. So which one's secular, which one religious? Of course, the Wolverine comic is secular. The Holy Bible is religious. We have another one right here. You have a image of the notorious B.I.G., and of course, a painting of the crucifixion. Of course, the crucifixion would be religious, and Biggie would be secular. On your Italian or the Renaissance handout, you have directions for a quick write, which is review slides 5 through 8. And in your own words, I've explained the difference between secular and religious. And your response must be at least 3 complete sentences. So just take a moment to go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and pause the video and knock that out. All right. So hopefully you did your quick write, and it is immaculate. Let us now move forward. So the Renaissance itself begins in Italy. And now the real question is, why Italy? Well, 2 big reasons for why. One are city-states. City-states are kind of independent. Well, they're basically cities, the city itself and its surrounding area, but they're independent. Think almost like the states of the United States, except there's only one city in charge of all of it, of that territory. So the city-state was North Carolina, and Charlotte was the only city in North Carolina, the main city, it would be a city-state. But basically, city-states, they become extremely wealthy from trade. And for example, Florence, they are known for banking, where Venice is known specifically for trade. Um, in any city-state, there is a wealthy merchant, and these merchants become patrons. And that's a person who financially supports artists or the arts. And they spend a lot of their money on artwork. Some just buy artwork outright. Some hire artists to be the personal artist for their family. For instance, the Medici family in Florence, they were one of the most well-known patrons in Renaissance history, especially Lorenzo de' Medici or Lorenzo the Magnificent. And with that, we are going to take another pause. And on your Italian Northern Renaissance handout, you should see video guide for Northern versus Italian Renaissance. There is a file for that on Canvas titled. It is titled Italian versus Northern. Northern versus Italian video. So please go ahead and pause this video and take some time to read that, to go through that and complete your chart that goes with it. You'll be looking for basically how they compare in location, influences, who the patrons of the arts were, the influence of religion on the Italian and Northern, and finally some of the key figures. So please go ahead and pause this video and go ahead and start on that. All right, good. So hopefully you got through all that. Some big takeaways that you should have are pretty much in the Northern Renaissance, of course, Christianity played a much larger role, and in both of them, they differ heavily from the Middle Ages. Locations, Northern Renaissance is more Central Europe, whereas Italian Renaissance is literally in Italy. Some influences what inspired their work. For Italian Renaissance, it was the Greeks and Romans. For Northern Renaissance, everyday things, patrons of the arts, merchants versus monarchs, things like that. Good. And now we get into our very last little bit, the innovations of the Renaissance. One of the big innovations of the Renaissance was the printing press, created by Johannes Gutenberg. It really kind of alters the landscape when it comes to knowledge acquisition. Of course, the printing press or the movable type printing press allows them to print text quickly, which means they can make books faster and cheaper. Before the printing press, of course, if you wanted to write a book, you did it by hand. If you wanted to make copies of that book, you wrote it also by hand. Because books are made faster and they're now much cheaper, it allows ideas to spread much quickly, and this leads to an increase in literacy. And with an increase in literacy, you see an increase in intelligence. And of course, the very first the very first book made by the printing press was the Bible. So that is it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this session. I hope everyone's doing okay. Make sure you go ahead and knock out those last little bit of questions near the bottom, and make sure you turn it in. Have a good day.